Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, Albus Dumbledore has always seemed to be a step ahead of everyone else, or had a knack for being able to know when something just wasn't right. It almost became expected of him to know things that he should have no way of knowing. Come to think of it, has anyone ever wondered if the Hogwarts headmaster really knew the truth about Barty Crouch Jr. impersonating Alastor Moody? Okay, so we can't expect him to guess the actual imposter correctly, but he'd known Alastor for years, so surely at some point he had to have an idea that something wasn't right. And if he did, at what point did he realise it? I want to talk about this topic in good detail today, so let's continue the video and get to the point. Welcome back guys. So I have to admit, I kind of forgot the moment in the book where Barty Crouch Jr. reveals himself to Harry Potter that it was he who had been impersonating Alastor Moody all year long. I forgot what was actually said between the two. Now I watched the movie adaptation of the scene a couple of times before I made this video, but I also, of course, pulled out my copy of the Goblet of Fire to briefly read over the page in order to properly refresh my memory. It actually brought me back to exactly how I felt when I first read it, which was shock and disbelief, and it really was a nice nostalgic moment. Until it made me realise that it was over 20 years ago, yeah 21 years ago to be exact come July, and I felt extremely old. Anyway, let's move on. I've always wondered if Dumbledore had known or had any indication in the slightest that this Alastor Moody wasn't who he said he was. For those of you who need a quick refresher, Alastor Moody was overpowered by Barty Crouch Jr. and imprisoned in his magical trunk, while the latter took Polyjuice Potion and pretended to be him for the entire 4th year at Hogwarts. Now, the Goblet of Fire movie, for its failures, did get the Polyjuice principle right. It does change the voice of the drinker, as the error in the Chamber of Secrets and Deathly Hallows movies that had the characters' real voices dubbed over the original actors was so apparent. So straight away we can rule out the voice issue that I've seen creep up many times. Anyway, I like many others have always asked the question, did Dumbledore know? Had he got any idea? And if he didn't know, which is what I think anyway, what prevented him from finding out? I mean, was Barty Crouch Jr. really that good? And when did he find out? We'll get to that last one a bit later. The truth is, yes, he really was that good. Crouch did a brilliant job as Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. He actually taught the students valuable and useful information, so that may have thrown a curveball into the situation because, as far as Dumbledore was concerned, Crouch, or Moody, was teaching an excellent curriculum. Crouch would also have not been stupid enough to hurt students either, as he was under strict instructions to not only follow the plan of getting Harry through the Triwizard Tournament, but also not to jeopardise the plan in any way at all. Considering Crouch's loyalty to Voldemort, it's safe to say that he would be adhering to everything the Dark Lord had said. In saying that, I do believe Dumbledore may have sensed that something was not entirely right about this Moody. After all, he had known the man for years. I've mentioned that earlier on, but it was also important to remember that he hadn't seen the man in years. He'd also heard rumours that Moody had gone mad. He'd cracked. He'd lost the plot completely with his paranoia from years of watching his back from dark wizards who he expected to be gunning for him, so it's not really fair to assume he'd act on those small doubts about his friend. Actually, something that bugs me about people's perception of Dumbledore is that they paint him as this superhuman god who is expected to know everything. There's so much pressure on him to figure everything out, he's supposed to just figure everything out. I said he's normally one step ahead in the majority of situations, but not every time. Even Ron Weasley himself said in the book, I know Dumbledore's brilliant and everything, but it doesn't mean a clever dark wizard can't fool him. With that being said guys, I'll give him my defense for Dumbledore. You've just heard, and I feel like I've made some good points. With that being said guys, I've given my defense for Dumbledore. You've just heard it, and honestly, I feel like I've made some good points. But if I am to be fair in this video, I have to take a look at the other side. Things that the headmaster should have noticed, and perhaps should have acted on. For starters, when he transfigured Draco into a ferret, that was strictly forbidden in Hogwarts. And that type of magic was magic that the Ministry would also not condone. Alastor Moody was a strictly by the book aura, who takes no shortcuts and was extremely respectful of the position he had been in for some time. This Moody also went snooping through Snape's office, which was really uncharacteristic and unprofessional on his end to do so. It's not something you'd find every other teacher doing, and it certainly did fuel the growing speculation within Dumbledore, but still it was not enough to act. They were both major red flags, however. It's also important to note that this man was the greatest Auror to ever hold the position, the greatest of his time, the greatest of all time. So to think that somebody could get close enough to imprison him and then impersonate him, well, it almost seems impossible if you ask me. Something that crossed my mind was also when Harry's name was put into the Goblet of Fire. Yeah, if it was any other point, any other time that Moody was visiting, then okay, his presence alone would alert suspicion that he may possibly be responsible for doing it. But the thing is, Hogwarts had so many visitors that year that it was near impossible to discover who the perpetrator actually was. It was someone though, that was a certainty, and that's why Dumbledore allowed events to unfold. It was only after Harry's return with Cedric's body did the headmaster discover that Alastor Moody was not who he truly appeared to be. Let's look at it for a moment. Harry was distraught on his return. He kept screaming that Voldemort was back, screaming loud enough for everyone to hear him, and it was quickly drawing attention. Crouch, as Moody, wanted to remove Harry as fast as possible due to the boy drawing the attention on the Dark Lord's name, as Harry said it more than once. It was not yet time for the Dark Lord to reveal himself to the world. Dumbledore instructed Alastor to stay put with Harry and not to move, yet Alastor, or Crouch, ignored him and practically forced Harry away from the scene. When the headmaster realised what had happened, he knew that something wasn't right, which is why he burst through the door so dramatically, and we finally see Crouch Jr. caught for his crimes. Now guys, like the last video, I'll include another short theory as to how I believe Dumbledore could have quashed any doubt whatsoever over Moody, and that's simple. He could have used the Marauder's map. Had Dumbledore or Harry or anyone with access to the map even stood within the same grounds as Crouch Jr. and looked for Alastor Moody on the map, well, Crouch Jr. could have easily been caught, exposed, and basically none of this would have happened at all. Everyone would have been saved, Cedric Diggory wouldn't have died, Voldemort wouldn't have returned, but that absolutely shits on the entire plot, so that's a thought that will remain here in this video. With that being said guys, that is my video on why Dumbledore didn't realise Moody was a fake. If there's anything you'd like to add, then please do so in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I will see you all in the very next video. Thank you so much for watching, I truly appreciate your support. Everyone, notifications of uploads are more important than ever, so please, if you haven't already, turn those notifications on to make sure you're notified the moment my video goes live. Making videos is what I love to do, it's my dream and my passion. However, it does cost time and money to produce this content, so if you have $1 to spare to support me on Patreon in exchange for some exclusive unseen content, then you can click the Patreon link below or at the end of this video. Please only support me if you can afford it. And make sure to follow me on Instagram at InstaDNJ and on Twitter at Folklore. Check out my other videos appearing on screen, and please make sure, most importantly, to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again everyone, and please have a great day.